You.
Alright guys, today I'm here to inform you about cryptids and see if I can get you guys to believe me. Cryptids. Now, what is a cryptid? The types of it. It's a weird word. I doubt many of you really heard it before. Cryptid is, now say, the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot. But that's not just strictly a cryptid. There's things like this snake here. Now, this doesn't look very big, I know, but that's like a 4-lane highway. So you've got probably 140 foot of snake here. This is in Africa. It's an aerial shot taken in the late 60s. And this snake had been reported by the locals over and over again and nobody believed them. So they did this aerial shot and they found it. It hasn't actually been found today. Now, why should you, what's my proof? Because I'm talking about Bigfoot here. I mean, come on. The number of exactly similar stories over such a vast area. Like, for example, in 2001, a 19-year-old driving along in Pennsylvania, he hears like this large, kind of like the sound of a plane going over, like almost the wings. So he looks up and he sees what was described as more or less a pterodactyl. We all know what a pterodactyl looks like. You wouldn't buy that. But in the same day, somebody who had like totally nothing to do with this guy reports the same thing. And a week later, somebody who had never heard of the other two guys, never met him, reports the same thing. Now, also, in Texas, there was a string of incidents exactly similar. No alteration whatsoever in stories.
Doesn't that bother you that it was in Texas, though?
It's Texas.
Credibility's kind of shot. Okay, just check.
But it's Pennsylvania. I mean, not bad. But, I mean, exactly similar stories over such a wide area, you can't really, and people that have never met each other. Also, the Queensland tiger, I mean, that's less of a mythical thing. It's more like an extinct species, so to speak. It was, it's known as the Yari to the Aborigines in the area. And its first sightings were in the 1870s. It's built kind of like a little, what's the word, the police dogs, German Shepherds. It's built like a German Shepherd, but it's a feline, it's a cat. And it had never actually been sighted. It was kind of just a rumor thing, you know, the natives come up with this weird beast, yada yada. But then people started seeing it in the 40s and 50s and such. Now nobody, like, these people have never met, and they're coming up with the exact same story, describing this animal looks identical to the same thing this guy's been talking about in like the 1870s, yada yada. I mean, come on. You can't just come up with this stuff that's exactly similar to somebody else. Also, why else we should believe? The Aboriginal stories. Now, the Mokwele Mbembe is in Africa. It's in the Congo. And it's called the one that stops the flow of rivers. This is from one tribe. They call it the one that stops the rivers. Another tribe calls it the one who eats the tops of the palm trees. And yet another tribe calls it monstrous animal. And then even another one calls it half god, half beast. But they all described it the exact same way. These tribes can't talk to each other. There's no telephones in the Congo. There's no email, no
drums,
text.
drums, smoke.
Well, yeah. But, but I mean, you can't describe an animal to a T the exact same way as the tribe 800 miles to the west of you, or whatever it does. You can't just do that. These people don't talk to each other. They can't convey this message of the exact same beast. Now, what do you guys think?
With all our technological advances and heat seeking and everything we've got, why can't we find them?
Well, they can.
They can't?
They can. They have. Like that snake. They found a snake quite similar.
But that was, what year was that?
That was the 1960s. That one.
So where's the remnants? There's got to be.
You can't find remnants of heat seeker.
Well, but talk about, whoa, no, that's not what I'm saying. The skeletal remains, different things like that. I mean, we're finding stuff back to AD. You know, with geologists, geologists and stuff finding in the rocks and the whole bit. And I mean, trust me, I've seen Bigfoot.
Can I go off the record?
Yeah.
Like, okay, with that, I was looking further into it last night after I finished all of this, just out of curiosity. I'm really curious about this kind of stuff.
Good.
I really, really love this kind of stuff. So I found with that snake, I like the idea of the snakes. I mean, they have an actual aerial photograph of this thing. They found a skeleton of a snake that had died. It was like 100 and some years ago. But where in typical anacondas, what's the term? The spine.
Right.
Where it's like this big, this snake's was twice the size of a basketball. So like figure that big, I think. Whereas like a typical anaconda's like that. I mean, there's never been a snake that big before. And when they put it together, they actually had the full skull. It was like a crocodile head. I mean, could you imagine that?
No.
And this had died, like they found the remnants in like, in the Amazon. And I mean, the locals have been talking about this thing for years. So.
That's
like,
true. No, it's true. I'm not saying, I'm just a little skeptical because we have so much technology that can zoom in and look at things, and scope things up. But do I believe there's remote parts of the world? Yeah, I do.
Well, there's the islands in, I found this out way after I was done researching last night too, over in New Britain, which is north of Australia. There's these remote islands, and a lot of researchers go there. They're called the Island of Lost Animals. There's animals here that are nowhere else in the world. There's animals that swim between the islands that are like considered prehistoric, but they're not at all. There's these little like lizard things that are found nowhere else, that are closer to the dinosaurs than anything else in the world.
You can take your pick. They've been being patient.
Oh, yep.
Oh yeah, well, like what you were saying, there's these animals, the snakes, and they had just like the base of their skull spine was like that big, called the Titanoboa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had just found it in like the Amazon, I think you were saying.
Yeah.
And like crocodiles, they're prehistoric animals. Like they came from the time. They're just slightly different. So like, there's not really much of a reason for why they came.
I had a little period in my life where I was obsessed with mermaids because I think that they're legit real, and I think that and I think that we haven't discovered as much of the ocean. Like I can't remember the percent. It's not. It's a very low percent of like the ocean we've discovered. So I think that it's very possible that there's things out there that we don't see. But I don't believe in Bigfoot. That kind of thing. Like,
Exactly.
Like the show finding
Have you ever been to Mountain
wait,
I was gonna
wait,
put a picture of you in this just for the record, but I decided against it.
wait. Okay. The show Finding Bigfoot, you know how they have those heat sensor things, and they like film him, and they have the heat sensor, and there's like a Bigfoot off in the distance. That's a man standing there because Bigfoot per se we would put off the same heat as him. So he's like that's like a guy standing there that they're filming. So
That show is false.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. But is supposedly the Bigfoot or the Yeti, is that false? I mean, are we really gonna dig that depth into the like tundra of Russia?
But I think it's weird how he's spotted in places like really close to towns and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
with that
he
show,
can't
that's
run
that's so
all
yes.
the way across.
Go ahead,
the
keep
world.
moving around. Good discussion. I like it.
I mean, I understand the fact that there's things that like we haven't discovered, like animals that have lived from prehistoric times, but don't you think a lot of it is also people hearing legends and then seeing something that they don't fully understand and then saying, oh, that's Bigfoot because it looked somewhat like a Bigfoot, and I feel like that was what one would look like.
Connecting the story.
Yeah, like
if you
they're
heard a
filling in
story-
the
yeah.
Mhm.
I agree.
Jeremy.
Well, I just have a couple of theories here. Well, like earlier you were talking about the Yari. Now, little do people know there was actually a species that
Yeah.
was half cat, half lion that existed earlier before the end of World War I. They were endangered and they recently went extinct. But is it possible that maybe it was just a species and not what other people are saying? And then I relate this to, you also forget that these tribes have an avid tradition of doing drugs that are native to the landscape. So,
Good theory.
But like with you're saying that it went
Yeah.
extinct, the Macaulay membrane is it's in the deep Congo, and it's said to be like the Bronchiosaurus. We all know what that is: long neck, huge body, huge legs. The one that eats the tops of the trees, the dinosaur.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, yeah, literally, yes.
Brontosaurus.
But is that not just an animal that just hasn't gone extinct yet?
Well, that's, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So in 200 years, say, I know I'm going totally off the hook here, say German Shepherds go extinct and it's rumored to have seen one in Great Britain, that'll be what's considered to them a cryptid. It's just an animal that has not been seen for so long and is considered.
I like the fact that no matter what you tell me, all I need is 0.1% of doubt. I don't believe anything is concrete. People will say death all the time. Don't always know what's after death. Give me that 99.9% sure. I only want that 0.1 that they could exist. I love that idea. Because I'm sorry, you guys, totally serious. I am one of the most least fearful person you'll ever meet. Number one, I'm too stupid. Okay? I'm totally serious. I'm too stupid to fear. But if I watch The Conjuring and I go outside to pee with my dogs, I'm freaking out. Every shadow, every leaf, oh, I can't pee. So it's like, you start looking at it from that standpoint, it's that mindset that you're in. My kids right now are in a mental state. Bigfoot is out there. And it's, the best part is my brother called me this morning. He's coming up to put the suit on tonight. So Dad's going to be there with the kids because Jordan asked a question the other day. Hey, Dad, how come we never see Bigfoot when you're not around? When you're always gone. You're never around. I think, and out of the blue, my brother called me this morning with no contact. I will have film for you tomorrow. I like it, dude. Well done. Well done.